أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Okay, so I was really excited and looking forward to actually sitting back and enjoying a reminder myself today, but alhamdulillah. There are 5 main sort of areas that I want to talk to you about today that I feel are I guess that make up the essence of Ramadan, and they are, I would say, at the core of what Ramadan is, or what Ramadan should mean to us. But before I go into that, I just want to give you a couple of analogies, just to give you some idea, because I feel analogies just help us to understand concepts better than if I was just to give you a definition or say something to you. Okay, so think of Ramadan as a marathon. It's not a sprint. And as you know, marathons are, they take time. They are long. They need a lot of preparation and practice. You can't just jump into it. If you were to go into a marathon unprepared and just, run the first part of it, what's most likely to happen is that you will run out of energy, you will get exhausted really fast, and you will most likely not even be able to make it to the finish line, perhaps, or you will be very, very slow by the time you get to the end. What do athletes do, especially when they are participating in something like this? If you know anything about athletes, if you know anything about, for example, the Olympics, one of the things that the Olympics or athletes are known for is practice and preparation, right? They are very, very big and strong on practice and preparation, because without practice and without preparation, they cannot sustain themselves up to the end, right? And preparing yourself mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, on all these levels, it is very, very important if you want to make it to the finish line, because it's going to be something that's going to need effort, time, and you want to see it to the end in the best way. That's why a lot of the times you will see in Ramadan, when Ramadan comes, a lot of people, they are very excited, they are on a high. Okay, they start Ramadan on a high, and then after the first week or 10 days, you see numbers dropping, you see people feeling really tired, feeling really as if they're not able to really carry on, or they're not going to be able to see it to the end. So they do see it to the end, but what I mean is that they're not going to be able to continue doing all the things that they had incorporated into their day at the beginning. And so this is not how you want to end up. The other thing that we have to understand is that Ramadan is a test of our spiritual fitness. Okay, so again, like I said, that Sha'ban is one of the months in which the Prophet ﷺ used to fast the most, right? And it comes just before Ramadan. So your spiritual fitness is going to be put to the test. And it's good to start doing some of these things in Sha'ban, so that when Ramadan comes, it doesn't hit you. It's not something new or novel or something that you're really, really out of touch with. What happens when you go to the gym after a long time, or if you exercise or walk, if you suddenly get up and walk 5 miles one day, you will come home and you will feel really sore and you will be aching, and you will basically say that for the next week, I don't think I can even move because I'm so sore, because you're out of practice, right? So because Ramadan is going to test you spiritually, it's going to test your spiritual fitness, you need to start off some of these things from Shaban, so that when you enter Ramadan, you've already warmed up, and now you can, you can actually roll up your sleeves and get to work. Ramadan is not the month for rest. It is not a month to take it easy or to take things slowly. No, Ramadan is the month where you will push yourself to your limit. You will try and harness all your potential. This is the month where you will feed your soul, which means that you will put in all of that extra effort and energy, and you will starve your body. So you are not going to concentrate or pay attention to your body. You are going to pay attention to your soul. 11 months of the year, we pay attention to our body. And whether you admit it or not, we neglect our souls. This is the only month in which we will neglect our bodies and we will focus on our souls. The Sahaba would eat very little. They would, they didn't spend much time in preparing elaborate meals or eating, plates full of, food and a variety of food or things like that. They were very humble in the way they ate, in the way they, what they had presented at the time of suhoor or iftar was very was a very humble thing. And that is important, because when you restrain yourself physically, that's when you will be more able to push yourself spiritually. If you focus too much on your physical needs and you just make sure that I'm comfortable and I'm fulfilling all my physical needs, it will take from your spiritual demands. And so you have to really reduce as much as possible that focus on your physical needs, and give as much as you can, give as much focus as you can on your spiritual needs, because that is what this month is all about. Like I said, 11 months of the year is for you and your family and your holidays and your social life and your careers and your and all your other objectives, or whatever it might be that keeps you occupied and busy throughout the year. This is the time which is, like I said, for your soul, okay? And when I say soul, I will elaborate on this a little bit more as we move on, inshallah. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a sense of urgency when he mentions the month of Ramadan, and when he mentions the fast. He says, ayyama ma'dudat, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the days of Ramadan as ayyama ma'dudat. Now, that's saying it's a few days. And you're going to think it's a whole month, right? It's 29 or 30 days. How is that a few days? But if you think about it, first of all of us experience this. When Ramadan comes and it starts, it's like it's on a roll. Before you know it, 3 days have gone, a week has gone, 10 days have gone, it's the middle of Ramadan, and you're thinking, where is it all going? It's just like it's racing. And before you know it, you're at the end of Ramadan. And you're thinking, oh my God, it's the last 10 nights are starting from tomorrow. Or, now we're halfway through the last 10 nights. So it literally is ayyama ma'dudat. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is almost like it's prompting us to get our act together, to roll up our sleeves and to do the maximum that we can do, because it's just a few days. It's going to be gone really fast. It's just like, for example, let's say you let's say you're running a course, okay? And you say, this is going to be a course which is going to teach you XYZ. It's going to run from this time to that time, this many times in a week, and limited seats only, okay? When you say something like that, who's going to come forward as soon as possible and book themselves for this course? Only the very, very serious people, right? The time wasters are going to think, limited seats, okay, but I still want to think about it. If I get a seat, I get it. If I don't, no problem, I'll join the course when they run it next, right? It's almost like that Allah is saying, limited days. So only the serious people are going to say, oh my God, it's just a few days. You know what? I need to stop everything else and I need to focus on what is the objective of Ramadan. What is Ramadan for? I need to just get that done because it's only a few days and it'll be gone. Another analogy would be that, this is the month of so many blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's as if, there is a rain of rahmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a rain of maghfirah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who would go out in that rain and not get wet or not let any of that water affect them or touch them, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies rewards. There is so much ajr, there is so much barakah, rahmah. But this barakah and rahmah is for those who are going to collect it, who are going to harness it, who are going to make the most of it. And it's almost like if, let's say you have a bank account in HSBC, okay, and that's your bank, okay, and HSBC contacts you and they tell you, you have been selected to enter the vault and you will be given 60 seconds to collect whatever you want from that vault, okay? And everyone is there, okay? The cameramen, the public, journalists, everyone is there to capture this moment, right? And again, 60 seconds. So rather than saying you have a minute, saying 60 seconds, it gives you that sense of urgency, right? And so they start the timer and they say, okay, your time starts now. And the doors of the vault open up. And you're standing at the door and you take your phone out and you say, oh, let me just check my WhatsApp messages, or let me just see what's the latest post on Facebook, or what's my YouTube feed today, is there anything I need to watch, or let me just have a really elaborate meal now. Let me just, I suddenly remember that I'm really hungry, so let me go and start, buying myself a roast chicken meal, and then I want a salad as well, and I want a dessert, and I want a nice drink. And the people who are standing around you, and they're seeing that, the vault is open, and you're standing there, and you're on the phone, and you're trying to arrange a meal now, and you're trying to do these things. What do you think they're going to say about you? People are going to say, is this person stupid? Is this person, does this person not have any sense? They're gonna be really confused that, does this person have a mental deficiency, mental problem? The vault is open, the doors are open, the timer is running, and they're standing here at the door looking at messages, arranging a meal, doing different things, and the time is ticking. How do you think a person who goes through Ramadan wasting their time doing different random things, how do you think they appear? at least to those in the heavens, they appear just like this person appears to us, who's standing at the door of a vault and just doing random things instead of going in and grabbing as much money as they can. This is the month for you to grab as much of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounties and mercy and maghfirah as you can. This is not the time for you to do other things. Okay? And this is the month of change. So a lot of things change during this month. Can anyone tell me? Just name a few things that are different in this month than any of the other months. I hope I haven't put everyone to sleep already. Okay, so my daughter's in the room with me, so she said you fast in this month for the entire month, which you don't do in other months. Okay, that's one different thing. Okay, let me hear from others.
We have the Tarawih in this month.
Yes, very good. And shayateen are locked up. Yes, very good. Yes, Zeba?
Supposed to be.
What's so special about this month is that the Quran was revealed in it.
Okay. I'm specifically talking about the changes that take place in this month compared to other months.
Getting up for suhoor and
Okay.
sleeping late after Tarawih. Your hours are different.
It's better than 1,000 months.
There's a night in this month which is better than 1,000 months. Ziba, have you raised your hand again, or is this from the previous? Okay. All right. So, yes, last 10 nights are special.
Laylatul Qadr?
Yes, there's a special night during this
Laylatul
month,
Qadr?
which is not in any of the other months. There was something that I was expecting, but none of you have maybe remembered it or mentioned it. As you know, the doors of Jannah are opened and the doors of the hellfire are closed. It's almost as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you an additional opportunity to protect yourself from the hellfire and enter Jannah. Right? This is a really, really important thing that happens only during this month. It doesn't happen in any of the other months throughout the year. It's just during this month that the doors of all the 8 doors of Jannah are opened and all the 7 doors of the hellfire are shut. It's almost as if, like I said, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as if he's closed the nar to you and he's opened Jannah to you. It's almost like an invitation that enter as many of you as you can enter. In this month, every single night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frees a certain number of people from the hellfire. Every single night, it happens in Ramadan. And it doesn't happen in other months like this, like it happens in Ramadan. And we don't need to wait for the last 10 nights. We need to start begging Allah. From the first night of Ramadan, we need to beg Allah to free us from the hellfire and enter us into His Jannah. So this is a month of many changes. The greatest of them all, I would say, is the change of your heart. Okay? And you need to ask yourself, how was I last Ramadan? And how do I find myself today? And a whole year has passed since the last Ramadan. Have you improved in some ways? Have certain things become worse or better in some ways? What are the things that you would have liked to change but you weren't able to yet? What are the things that you were able to change and you're very pleased with the results now? And so you have new goals and new objectives for this Ramadan. You have to ask yourself how you have changed and how your heart has changed. And you have to see how your heart is at the beginning of Ramadan and how you find your heart and how you find yourself at the end of this Ramadan. And that is going to be one of the greatest changes that will impact you. One Ramadan can make a big difference. One Ramadan of your life can almost make the difference between Jannah and Nar. You just don't know, what this one Ramadan is going to do for you, for your akhirah. And, like, for example, there were two Jews who became Muslim together. And one of them went to jihad and he was killed. The other one, he was alive and he died the following year, just a regular death. You could say, like, in bed or at home, and he passed away. So one of them is shaheed and one of them just, passes away. Talha ibn Ubaidullah, he narrates this story, and he said he had a dream and he saw that they were at the gates of Jannah, and the angel comes and he takes the second Sahabi into Jannah first, the one who died a regular death. And then he comes and he takes the shaheed. And he tells Talha ibn Ubaidullah to go back, to return. Talha ibn Ubaidullah is really confused. So he goes to the Prophet ﷺ and he tells him this dream. And he asks him that, how is it that the shaheed didn't enter Jannah first, but the other Sahabi entered first? And the Prophet ﷺ said, why are you surprised? Did you not take account of his Ramadan? Because this Sahabi, he lived a year more than his colleague or his friend. He had an extra Ramadan, right? And that Ramadan obviously means he had extra ibadah, extra Laylatul Qadr, extra Quran, extra Taraweeh or Qiyam, Dua, Sadaqat, whatever he did in that Ramadan. Can you imagine? One Ramadan can make such a huge difference to where you end up in the end. So each Ramadan that Allah blesses you with is an opportunity, and it's a treasure trove that can make a huge difference in your end. There are, a few other analogies, but if I go on with that, I won't be able to cover my points. So let's start with some of the points that I had for you. As I said, I have 5 points that I want to share with you. The first thing is, as someone mentioned, that this is the month in which the Quran was revealed. Everything that the Quran touches becomes special. It becomes precious. It becomes something valuable. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it a lot of weight and puts it in a very special category. So, the Quran was revealed in Ramadan. Ramadan is the most special month in the whole year. The Quran was revealed on the night of Qadr. The night of Qadr is the greatest night in the whole year, and it is better than 1,000 months. Okay. The Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, and he becomes the most beloved prophet and the most beloved of Allah's creation and the greatest of all the Anbiya. The Quran was revealed through Jibreel alayhi salam, and Jibreel alayhi salam becomes the best amongst all the angels. He's the greatest amongst all the angels. Everything that the Quran touches becomes precious and special. If you want your life to be special, you have to allow the Quran to touch your life and be an essential and integral part of your life. And your life will become special. If you want your heart to be special to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran has to play a huge role in your life. It has to be in your heart. It has to be in your soul. It has to be something that you are extremely attached to. And your heart will become that extra special. So this is the month where if we have left the Quran throughout the year, we haven't recited it every day, we haven't completed its recitation a few times since the previous Ramadan, which would be very sad, because the Sahaba, they never let more than 40 days pass each time, meaning every month, unless they had completed the recitation of the, and 40 was the maximum time that it would take them to complete the recitation. A lot of them would complete the recitation every 10 days. A lot of them would do it every 15 days, every month, and the maximum was 40 days. So if you have not been able to do that, this is the month that you attach yourself to the Quran and you develop a stronger and healthier connection with the Quran, and you give the opportunity to allow the Quran to make your life and your heart extremely special to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? The second aspect that I want to mention is taqwa. As you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, so that you may achieve or learn taqwa. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept things very simple and straightforward. Why do we fast? So that we can learn taqwa, right? It's a very clear-cut equation. We fast to learn taqwa. What is taqwa? What do you understand by taqwa? Anybody?
Being conscious of Allah.
Did you say conscientiousness of Allah?
Yes, that's what I meant.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so consciousness or conscientiousness of Allah. So being aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watching us is what she's trying to say. Anybody else? We have three, you could say, aspects of our relationship or our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? We have love, fear, and hope. Right? And it's a fine balance between these three things that you could say constitutes a balanced or wholesome relationship or connection between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From these three, the one that has the strongest impact on our connection and our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is love. Love is an extremely high impact emotion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, and it affects us more than any of the other emotions that we experience and feel. If you look at some of the stories in the past, right? I'm talking about whether it's fairy tales or it's romantic stories or whatever it might be, okay? So, for example, you have Romeo and Juliet, you have various other, you have the so-called the love story or things like that, right? And the recurring theme in these stories is that all the actions of these two lovers are driven by their love for each other, by this extremely strong emotion that they feel for each other, right? And you will hear, people who are extremely in love with each other saying that, I don't love you, I worship you, right? Because that is the peak of love. That is the, you could say, the epitome of love, is that your world revolves around this person that you love. Okay? I want you to think about somebody who is extremely beloved to you. Okay? Think of someone in your mind who you love a lot, who you love extremely. Now, it could be your child, it could be your spouse, it could be your best friend, it could be your cousin or your sister or sibling, it could be your parent, right? So, let's say, for example, it is your parent, okay, that you love very, very much. What is the result of this love? The love that you feel towards your parent, can you imagine if your parent now turned around and said to you, I never ever want to speak to you or see your face ever again? How would that make you feel? Or what are the feelings you would have in your heart if somebody you love so much turned around and said to you, I don't ever want to see you or speak to you again? Yes, okay, heartbroken. Anything else?
Devastated.
Yes. So you're using words like heartbroken, devastated. What is at the core of these emotions of heartbreak and devastation is fear, right? It would scare you to hear something like that from somebody that you love so much, right? To hear something like that from someone for whom you have such strong feelings, for them to turn around and say, I don't ever want to speak to you or see you again, right? So you can see that love is extremely closely intertwined with fear, right? When you really love someone, you are extremely fearful of losing them, of making them angry, of upsetting them, of them being so upset that they just walk away from you, right? You would not be able to tolerate somebody you love so much to just say something like that and turn away and just walk away from you. So this, in essence, is what taqwa is, right? It is your love and your connection with Allah, which is at such a level that you can't fathom making Allah angry. You can't fathom doing something that will make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala angry with you. You can't fathom doing something that Allah doesn't like, because you have this extreme love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why we need to ask ourselves, where are we with regards to this love that we claim that we have for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is the month for you to fall in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the month for you to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a way, in such a strong way, that making Allah angry, disobeying Allah or making Allah angry, I don't know if it's correct to say disappointing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are not options for you. Of course, there are times when we will do that, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us to be perfect, right? We have to remember that we are created in such a way where we will make mistakes, and we just need to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah loves for us to turn back to Him. But I'm talking about, deliberate disobediences, right? That when you really and truly love someone, you wouldn't deliberately do something that will hurt them or harm them. Not harm them, but that will hurt them or that will make them angry. That will be against their wishes. Okay? This should be your Ramadan goal. Okay? And I feel this is, amongst other things, this is the essence of Ramadan. Make this your goal to earn the khullatullah. Okay, when I say khullatullah, I mean, make your goal to become Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's friend, to be so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to try and achieve that goal of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala until you are amongst His special people, until you become amongst those who are very close to Him and are very special to Him. And this is something that we have to make dua for. This is not something that any of us can achieve without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. We can't do anything without Allah's help. Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us with those things, we can't achieve them. And that's why we must ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and beg for His closeness, beg to make us close to Him, and to make us amongst those who love Him. We're always concerned about whether Allah loves us, but we must ask ourselves, do we really love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like I said, in some of my previous durus, that the signs of love are quite clear, right? Because love is an emotion that we experience in our lives, right? And for example, let's say I have a friend. Okay, she's my best friend and I love her very much. And let's say I'm supposed to meet her for lunch. Okay, I'm going to be planning it, thinking about it from the previous day, right? I'm going to be thinking, oh, I can't wait, what am I going to wear? Okay, I think I'll wear this when I go to see her. And I'll be looking at the time, looking at the date, right? If it's like a few days away, I'll be looking on the calendar. I'll mark it on my calendar that I'm going to see her. I'm going to maybe make a note of some of the things I want to talk to her about. And when I'm with her, I'm going to cherish those moments, and I won't want that time to stop. I won't want that time to finish. I will want that time to carry on. I will want to I will just want to try and hold on to it as much as I can. And when my meeting with her or my lunch date with her or whatever comes to an end, that's the time where I'm going to just think, I'm actually going to feel a bit sad. I'm going to think, oh no, it just flew. And, when am I going to see you again? And let's plan something again next week, right? This is how we behave when we really love someone. Now ask yourselves, how many of us can't wait for the next salah? How many of us can't, once we are in salah, we don't want that salah to finish very quickly. Or when we come towards the end of that salah, we actually feel sad that salah is almost done now. And I wish I could spend more time, speaking to Allah. Or, okay, my fard is done, I'm going to do sunnah, so I get some more time to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's like my extra bonus time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or how many of us look at it as, I can't wait to get away from everything else and just spend time with Allah. Right? I mean, when I'm about to see my best friend, I'm just thinking, I can't wait to just get out of the kitchen, get away from the kids and the family, and just go and just spend time with my friend. And وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all parables. But in order to explain the concept of love and true love, I have to give these examples because this is the only way we will really understand where we stand. This is the only way we will really grasp what is our status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is our status with regards to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with regards to our claims of loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where are we? Are we just trying to dodge the salah, or Are we trying to delay it because we're thinking, oh, I have to pray again? Once and we do it and quickly it's done and okay, now I can relax. So this is the month where you have to try and fix these things. This is the month where, like I said, the whole year you spend with other things, other people, other tasks, all our other responsibilities and commitments. This month, spend it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This month is for you and Allah. It's for you to connect with Allah. It's for you to improve your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the most important point that I wanted to convey, that, we must try and improve our connection and the quality of our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to work on our claims of love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to really look forward to speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to look forward to hearing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to say to us. Right? And that's where Salah and Quran come in. Okay, so those are the first 2 points, Quran and the taqwa. The third point that I want to make is about dua. And as you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He mentions about fasting in the Quran, and in between the verses of fasting, which I think are 185, 186, 187, it's around those verses in Surah Al-Baqarah. And in between the verses of fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if my slave asks you about me, verily I am close to him. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala almost like from grammatically, he goes from sort of, I think it would be like from second person to first person, right? He's saying, if my slave asks you, I am close. So it's almost like he's now directly telling us that I'm close to you. The format of these ayahs, it's almost like I said to you, the verse about dua is sandwiched between the verses of Ramadan and fasting. It's almost suggesting that at the core of Ramadan or of fasting, in the, right in, you could say in the lub or in the center, is dua. And dua, of course, is a very important and effective way of communication between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? That's where we speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our words, where we express our needs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone who is extremely stingy, okay? Someone who is known as a bakhil, okay? A bakhil is someone who is extremely stingy, right? He doesn't like to help anyone. He doesn't like to give anything to anyone. He just likes to live his life, and as long as his needs are fulfilled, he doesn't really care about anyone or anything else, okay? So let's say there is this bakhil, and this is his door, okay? And he lives in this house, and this is the door of his house. And imagine I go and I start knocking this door, and I knock, 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 and I keep knocking. I keep knocking, I keep knocking, I keep knocking. So for, let's say, for the next, 10 minutes, I'm just knocking. What do you think this bakhil will do? This person who is really nasty and unkind and has got no desire to give anything to anyone. What do you think he will do? I want to hear from you. Anyone? What happens if you keep knocking on this guy's door? Mm-hmm.
Eventually they'll open it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, eventually.
Be in a bad mood, but eventually they'll open it.
Yeah, they will open it. And they will ask you what you want. And imagine you say, I want a bottle of water and I want some biscuits. You know what he's going to do? He's going to go in, he's going to get the water, he's going to get the biscuits, and he's going to shove it in your hands, and he's going to say, get lost, and shut the door. Right? 17 times at a minimum, every single day, we knock on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's door and we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone do we worship, you alone do we seek help from. Do you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not respond to you? Allah is so kind, He's so generous, He's so merciful, He loves to be asked. This guy who doesn't like to be asked, he doesn't have any desire to give anything to anyone. You keep knocking His door and He will give you what you want. What about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is above all parables and examples and analogies. So subhanallah, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the month for you to make dua in the day while you're fasting, in the night while you're doing qiyam. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the most generous, He is kind, He is the most giving, He owns all the treasures. Everything belongs to Him. Ask Him. And keep knocking His door. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will answer your dua. And as we know that there are 3 ways in which a dua can be answered, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never turn you away. He will never turn you away without acknowledging and accepting your dua in one of those 3 ways. Choose the best times to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While you're fasting, just before you break your fast, just before Fajr. So, once you've had your suhoor, keep some time just before the adhan of Fajr. That's the best time to make dua. In your sujood, during qiyam, in the last hours of Jum'ah, especially in Ramadan. If you go for Umrah in Ramadan and you're traveling and you're doing Umrah, in your fard salah before you make taslim, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us so many opportunities. Use them. And make sure that you harness, every opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us to earn and to, reap the benefits of those times. Try your best. And if you can't remember them, write them down. You can write them on a piece of paper, stick them on the wall so that you remember that, I can make dua at this time, I can make dua at that time, and plan it. You have to plan these things. You have to say that I'm going to wake up at such and such time so that I'm done eating by this time, and I will leave myself 20 minutes before Fajr just to make dua. Right? So you have to plan these things. Okay. The last thing that I want to share with you is also a very, very beautiful thing. It's not the last thing, sorry. It's point number 4. So far, I mentioned to you Quran. I mentioned to you taqwa. I mentioned to you dua. And this is point number 4, which is sadaqah. Don't ever be scared of sadaqah. Don't ever be scared of giving in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give generously. What you give is what you actually keep. Because what you give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what is being deposited in your account above the heavens, right? You are basically building up your bank balance every time you give. And this is the beauty of sadaqah, and this is why, it is said that only a believer will give sadaqah, right? Only the person who has iman will give, that sadaqah is a proof of your iman. Why is sadaqah a proof of your iman? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me why sadaqah is a proof of your iman? And I have mentioned this in previous durus.
Is it because like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about the munafiqeen, about the hypocrites, that they're scared of giving in the name of Allah, like if they do give, they hate giving, whereas the mu'min, they give openly and they're not scared of giving.
You're on the right track, but can you tell me why are the munafiqeen scared of giving? What do they think happens when they give?
They're scared of their wealth getting less.
Exactly. They are scared that when they give, their wealth is going to diminish, right? What do the believers think?
That Allah will increase it by
Exactly. Only a believer, right? Only a believer who has iman will believe that if I give this money, I'm going to get more. Because he believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he believes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the owner of everything. He's the owner of wealth. He's the owner of our health. He's the owner of time. He's the owner of our families and all the bounties that He's given us. Allah owns everything, right? Whatever you want to increase, give it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you give for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who owns everything, who is in charge of increasing those things, and He's in charge of decreasing those things, right? Like some people say, there's just not enough time in the day. So they feel that the time is really tight. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can expand that time and He can constrict that time. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can increase your wealth and He can constrict your wealth, right? And so only a believer believes that if I give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will multiply. He will give me more because He owns everything. He is the owner of this wealth. And when He wants, He will increase it. So don't ever be scared of sadaqah. Give. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, he hardly had anything. And if you read the stories of how he used to give, it even blows my mind. It boggles my mind. It puzzles me that how was he able to do this? But this is all a sign of iman, right? So for example, the Bedu came to him and he said, I want some of these goats or something like that. And he said, the Prophet ﷺ said to him, he said, I think the Bedu thought he's going to give me 50, 100, 110, 120, something like that, right? The Prophet ﷺ said to him, everything that is in that area or in that valley is yours. Take it. And this Bedu, he went and he told the people, he said that, believe in this man because, he must have something that causes him to behave like this, where he just gives. People came to Islam looking at the Prophet ﷺ's generosity, and he was so generous. Anyway, in Ramadan, it is said he was like the fast wind. I mean, like for example, if I had, let's say for example, one of my children is getting married, okay, next month. So I'm going to start saving some money because I'm thinking, I have to book a hall, I have to, book food, I have to get clothes, I have to do this and that, right? So I'm planning, and so I'm starting to save money for that event. The Sahaba, they would save money for Ramadan. They would start saving months in advance so that when Ramadan comes, they can give generously, they can feed, they can do different kinds of sadaqat. So, give generously. Don't ever be scared of giving, as long as you are giving with the right niyyah and you're giving for the sake of Allah. You're not giving to be seen, to be known, because when you do those things, then there will be no barakah in what you're doing. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Afshu salam wa at'imu ta'am wasilul arham, wasallu wan nasu niyam. So he said, spread the salam, feed the people, keep the ties of kinship, and pray while everyone else is asleep, meaning tahajjud. Udkhulul jannata bis salam. You do these 4 things, and what will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do for you in return? He will enter you into Jannah. You know, subhanAllah, our deen is so simple and it is so beautiful. And, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what to do and how to do it. We don't have to crack the code. It's all spelt out for us. We just have to try and do it. So, you know, feeding people is an extremely rewarding act. And again, that has to do with sadaqah, right? I will come to that when I come to the 5th point. Okay. The other thing about sadaqah that is very important for you to remember and understand is that when you do something for someone, it is actually a transaction between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not between you and that person. Let's say there is a person who is extremely needy, okay? And let's say there's a widow and she has 3 children and she's really struggling to buy basic needs or to pay her rent or something like that. And I go and I say, okay, here you go. This is some money for your rent, and here's a box of food. It's got rice and sugar and flour and oil and tea bags and fruit and, you know, things like that, okay? This is not really something that is between me and this widow. This action that I have done is actually between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we start approaching and looking at things like that, our entire paradigm shifts, right? When I do this for her, I don't feel like, oh, you know, I gave you food or I took care of your needs. I look at her as someone who gave me an opportunity to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Instead of her feeling grateful towards me, I feel grateful towards her. It's almost as if she's not really there. I am doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's between me and Allah. Let me tell you about a quick story. You know the incident of the ifk, where Aisha radiallahu anha was slandered, right? And there was a man called Mistah who played a part in the slander. Now, Mistah was someone who Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu supported financially. He used to give him a monthly or a weekly stipend, okay? And he was also, I think, a relative of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So he used to take care of him. And when this slander happened, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu obviously was very, very hurt and upset. Somebody has slandered his daughter, his beloved daughter. And this is not a small thing. It's a very serious level of slander, right? So now what he does is a very gentle response to what Mistah has done. He just withholds that stipend. And he says, I'm not going to give this anymore. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals in the Quran, أَلَا تُحِبُّونَ أَن يَغْفِرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ? Would you not like for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive you? When this verse is revealed, do you know what Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did? Anybody? Okay. Yes?
He doubled it. He ran back in fear and doubled the stipend and forgave him.
He increased the stipend. He didn't just go back to, restoring the stipend. He increased it. Do you know why? Because he realizes that this transaction is not between him and Mistah. It's between him and Allah. Allah is telling him, would you not like for Allah to forgive you? It's almost like Allah has removed him out of the equation, and he's indirectly telling Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, this is between you and me. You do this, and you have your sins forgiven. So whatever we do for people, whether we volunteer our time, whether we volunteer ourselves in some way, or we volunteer our wealth, whatever it is that we do, as long as our intention is that we're doing this for the sake of Allah, even though we're doing it for someone, it is actually between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And remember that what you give is what you actually keep, right? Because the receipts of what you have given for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are being accumulated in the akhirah for you. Nothing is lost. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not lose the actions of any believer, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appreciates, He acknowledges. Unlike, we as humans, sometimes you do so much for people and they don't even thank you. They don't even acknowledge what you've done. And that really hurts. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course, I'm not trying to compare Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to humans, but I'm just telling you about the feeling of how it feels when you do something and people don't even realize it or recognize it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala recognizes, acknowledges, rewards. So all the receipts of what you are giving are being collected for you in Jannah. What you keep is what you lose. Because what you kept, that just went in the dunya, and that was, you got whatever you got for it in the dunya, right? In exchange for whatever you spent in the dunya on yourself, you got the rewards for that here. But what you gave for the sake of Allah, you didn't get anything for that in the dunya, right? And all those receipts are accumulating in the akhirah. And you'll be amazed at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept for you as a recompense for what you gave for His sake. That is what I wanted to share with you about sadaqah. And remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, right, that when a person dies, He says, give me back life. And of all the actions that he could do, He says, so that I can spend in your way, in your cause. Because spending in the cause of Allah or spending in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has so much barakah and benefits that, that is the thing that this person really needs at that time. And that's what He says that He, wants to go back and do. So this is your opportunity and your chance. The other day I was just sitting and, recently I've been hearing of lots of people passing away and lots of deaths and things like that. And I was just sitting and I was thinking, that what if, my life just ended now, or let's say my life ended in an hour now, and we have to think like that. We have to. It's not an option not to. Because we have to ask ourselves. And I was just sitting and thinking at that time that, okay, if my life ended now, that's it. My chance is over. All the goals that I had to score, that's it. My time is done. I can't say, oh, can I just have, a few more hours because I had intentions to do this and this and this, but I just wasn't able to do it, You have to keep asking yourself that I will meet Allah in this current state. Am I ready to meet Him in this state? You have to ask yourself, am I ready to come out of my grave on the Day of Judgment and meet my soul in this current state? This is how I will meet my soul. We give so much time and attention to our bodies. I will try and buy the best, skin products. I will try and buy the best hair products. I will try and buy the softest fabric because, oh, this shirt feels nice. Or I will buy the best jewelry. I want a really good watch. I want a good car. I'm going to, really think about the guy I'm going to marry because I want the best husband. We put so much into this dunya, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. He didn't create us for all this. He created us for himself. He created us to focus on him. He created us to worship him, not to worship the dunya. And we must keep constantly asking ourselves, every day, at least once a day, we need to ask ourselves that if this is my last night, or if this was my last day or my last hour, would I be pleased to meet my current soul in its current state? Am I going to be happy with that? And it doesn't matter how old we are. It doesn't matter if you're in your teens, if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 40s, if you're in your 80s. Because death doesn't see age, right? It just comes when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written, when your time is done, it's done. This month, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, take us up to Ramadan, and, may He give us the opportunity to enter Ramadan. Because again, we don't know. So many people pass away literally hours before Ramadan starts. So you just don't know. I know we take it for granted that, oh, I'm fine, I'm healthy. But you just don't know. So Ramadan is the opportunity for you to improve your soul, to give that attention to your soul that you have neglected throughout the year, to try and make tracks towards improving your soul so that it's in a slightly better state. So that, when you now ask yourself this question that, am I in a state where I want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or where I will be pleased that, okay, I'm not ashamed to meet Allah in this state. Like, when someone's about to come to your house, you don't just get up in your pajamas with your hair or all disheveled, and you haven't, cleaned your teeth, and you've got bad breath, and, you don't just go down and, greet your guests like that, right? You would never want to meet somebody like that. We don't know what disheveled state our soul is in. We don't know the smell that our soul has at this time. We hope that it smells nice and it looks nice and it's in a good groomed state. But this is the month to groom your soul and to try and fragrance your soul with Quran. Fragrance your soul with istighfar. The last thing I want to share with you were just some practical tips. The first of these practical tips is cut down on, spending your time with unnecessary things. As much as you can, cut down on social media. Like I said to you, it's just like, a person who is given the opportunity to go in and collect as much, treasure or money or gold that he can collect. And he stands outside just, wasting his time, doing other random things, okay? Point number 2, Ramadan is a race, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, sabiqu, right? He says race towards Jannah, towards maghfirah. Ramadan is your opportunity for maghfirah, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he told us, Man sama Ramadan, man qama Ramadan, man qama laylatul qadr, imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbih. This is your race towards forgiveness. It's a race. You're racing towards Jannah. You're racing towards maghfirah. Tell me what happens to someone if they are in a race and they are carrying, let's say, a 10 kg bag of rice. What's going to happen?
They'll not be able to finish.
Exactly. it's going to slow them down, right? How can you race while you're carrying a 10 kg bag of rice? You're going to be like crawling, you're going to be dragging yourself. You can't run, right? What are our burdens that are going to slow us down in this race?
Our sins.
Yes, our sins.
Our sins.
Our sins are the burdens that are going to slow us down. They're going to impact the outcome of this race. So we have to try our best to leave sins as much as possible.
Our nafs.
Yes, so basically the same thing. So we have two enemies, right? We have an external enemy and we have an internal enemy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken away the external enemy. He's locked up the shayateen. But the internal enemy is our nafs. And we have to try and train that so that we don't lose this race. Okay? Leave as many sins as you can. Like I always say, it's easier to do good deeds or to add on good deeds than it is to leave out sins. That's a bigger challenge. So try your best. Whatever you think are your weaknesses, whatever you think is going to slow you down, try and remove it as much as you can before Ramadan. Number 3, don't do random things in Ramadan. Plan your day. And plan it before Ramadan starts. Don't just turn up in Ramadan and say, maybe I'll go to the gym today. Maybe I'll read some Quran now. Maybe I'll prepare some iftar. No. Plan your day. Just like you would plan anything else that means something to you. You wouldn't just randomly turn up. For example, if you're a doctor, you wouldn't just randomly turn up and say, let me operate on this person. Actually, let me do a few consultations right now. You'd plan it. You'd say, I'm going to spend the first 3 hours in the clinic doing consultations, and then my next 3 hours will be, surgical procedures or whatever, right? So this is more important than anything else. This is impacting your akhirah. So plan it, okay? Don't do random things. Don't just wake up in the morning and say, okay, let me just check my messages. Let me just, someone sent me a TikTok link. I just want to see what's on this one. I'm not going to see anything else. As soon as you click that link, believe me, you can guarantee you will spend an hour and a half, if not more, just scrolling after you've seen that one link that someone had sent you, and you won't even know where the time went. And you woke up at 9 a.m. and before you know it, it'll be 11:30 and you're going to say, oh my God, I've been on the phone for 1.5 hours. That's how, they say it's called TikTok because the clock just ticks as you just keep scrolling. So you open social media and you have already, damaged your the productivity of your day. Number 4, keep your heart clean as much as possible. Remember, carrying grudges, holding things in your heart, and, not cleaning your heart is like carrying a bucket with holes. Every time you pour water into it, all the water will just keep coming out. Okay? Your heart is like this bucket, and the grudges and all these things that you hold in your heart, they are like these holes. Your heart will not be receptive. It will not be able to hold the rahmah of Allah, the bounties, the Quran, and all these good things that you're putting in it. It can't be receptive if it is full of all this trash. Clean it out. Keep your heart clean as much as you can. Get rid of the holes in your bucket so that the bucket can actually hold the water. The last point is feed the people, as I told you in the hadith earlier on. Ramadan is a really good time to try and feed as many people as you can. Imagine feeding the people is a good deed at any time in the year. On top of that, it is Ramadan when you're feeding the people, so you're getting extra ajr because of the month of Ramadan. And on top of that, you are enabling them to break their fast with this food. You're hitting the jackpot, right? This is like a lottery. Okay, it's like winning the lottery. feeding people in Ramadan has got so many layers of ajr. And it doesn't mean that you have to cook and invite people to feed them. You can do that if you want to, but try to be stingy with your time in Ramadan. Your time in Ramadan, try to make it for you and Allah. Tell everybody else that you have attended to them throughout the year. This is your time for you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to feed the people, you can send money to different organizations. You can have food cooked by cooks and distributed, whether it's to neighbors or to the poor people, or there are many ways of feeding people. Okay, so try your best, improvise, think, plan, and feed as many people as you can. Every day try and feed as many people as you can. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in your rizq. You give and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you more and multiply it. Don't ever be scared of giving. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in your time, in your lives, and may this be one of your best Ramadans. Many years back, I had a stillborn baby, and it just so happened that it happened just before Ramadan. So I had just given birth, and I was in my postnatal period, and I was really heartbroken because I was heartbroken from the loss of the baby, and on top of that it was Ramadan, and I couldn't pray, I couldn't fast. I felt like, I'm just going to be so far away from everything. And I remember my husband would go for salah, for tarawih. So he would go to the masjid and he would pray in a masjid where there was a little park next to the masjid. And I was just sit in the park and I would listen to the salah, and I would just make dua and cry because I was just really sad that I felt like I wasn't participating in Ramadan, but I was making a lot of dua. And that's why I keep saying, the dua that comes from your heart, which is sincere, is very important. And I feel that was one of my best Ramadans, even though I didn't do a lot of the things that one would do in Ramadan. Some of the very key du'as that I made in that Ramadan, they materialized, and they were tough du'as. So I'm just saying, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this your best Ramadan, and give us all tawfiq to do what is most pleasing to Him. Enable us to try and push ourselves to our potential. Remember what I said, this is the month of sacrifice. It's the month of racing. It's the month of working. It's the month of doing. It's not the month for resting or taking it easy or slowing down. This is the month where we try our best, and we hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this gathering a source of expiation and forgiveness for all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention us in a gathering better than this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all with a beautiful and blessed Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you Laylatul Qadr and its rewards, its immense rewards, and all the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may He reunite us in His highest Janan. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.